So I'm going to dedicate tonight's poem to the memory of a dear friend. He's in the story. And it's Dr. William Euler. He was our neighbor, our dentist. He loved everything Spanish. He would speak Spanish every time he could. He would speak it to the waiters, even if they were Korean or Japanese or Russian. He was a gourmet cook. He was an enophile. He was an adventure traveler. And he loved nothing more than sharing his good food and his good wine with friends. And we miss him a lot. So, what happened in Vegas, or how I became a writer. Eager to become a writer, I donned a floppy hat, prowled through Glencoe to research the setting for a story called What Happened in Vegas. Circling St. Elizabeth Episcopal Church, I scouted the neighborhood for the house where the Episcopal priest's family might live. His daughter Kathy Hart needed an elm tree by her window to climb out of her room and meet up with Mark Middleman, son of a famous restaurant mogul. Yes, his father was based on a Chicago deli man. Who knew salad bars with mounds of lettuce could be so entertaining? The mothers carpooled the kids to preschool. Dark-haired Marky shared giant cookies with Kathy, but he also knocked down castles she built in the sandbox. They learned to swim together. Kathy was a fish. She rescued Mark when he was floundering. They went steady in high school. Mark's home, a brick mansion with boxwood hedges, a stone gate, polished marble kitchen counters laden with fruit. A fridge full of delicatessen was Kathy's refuge from the fishbowl where she lived with a rigid father and a Spartan activist mother. Huge sunglasses kept me incognito as I strolled down Longfellow to Glencoe Beach. Mark and Kathy skinny dipped there the night after senior prom. They had broken up and gone with other dates. But late that night, they ended up together, just as they did after a long bi-coastal friendship. Kathy at Stanford, Mark downstate. Mark would call Kathy after midnight to tell her his latest problems with women. Lunching at Apple a Day, I outlined the plot. Poker cemented their friendship in junior high. Games in Kathy's basement when her parents were away. And yes, her folks got home early to find teens in the basement at a table covered with poker chips, ashtrays, money. The kids were punished, and both sets of parents hoped the relationship would wane. It did not. Kathy swam for Stanford and bought a Jeep with poker winnings. Mark played cards with frat boys who funded his fledgling documentaries about sexual assault on Illinois campus, and in graduate school, child sex trafficking in Costa Rica. That lovely country's ugly secret. Busy at Stanford Law, and without WhatsApp, they rarely talked when Mark was in San Jose. Then one night at 1 a.m., he called from Utah. His film was up for audience favorite at Sundance. Could she come? She got in her Jeep and drove through a snowstorm to get there. Drank champagne when Mark won. They knew that night that they'd always be together. Before their wedding, Kathy's father shocked them by attending the bachelor weekend in Vegas, a party Mark did not want in the first place. Kathy's dad had gone to see a friend in Boulder, one of the first women Episcopal priests. She was 27 miles away. Why, Mark wondered, was he spending the day with that woman? He prayed Father Hart would miss the party. Hart arrived in his black shirt and white collar. Mark was tied to a chair with a naked dancer squirming on his lap. His face burned as his father-in-law-to-be untied him and got him away from his drunken buddies for the taxi ride from hell. The cabbie was high on something and kept up a banter about Catholic priests and predatory behavior. Mark told him twice, he's an Episcopal priest. When the guys swerved into oncoming traffic, they yelled for him to let them out. As they paid, the cabbie grinned at Father Hart and said, "Hey, have fun with the chicks, or do you prefer the boys?" Mark shoved the guy, and he slammed Mark with a left cut to the nose. The two men brawled until the police arrested them both. Father Hart bailed Mark out of jail next morning. Cut back to me. I'm researching in Las Vegas, staying by dear friends Roberta and Bill. We scored a private tour of the Clark County Jail where Mark spent the night of his bachelor party. Our guide showed us the gloves used for entrance exams. We visited holding cells and the 10th floor exercise yard, another place where men wandered about their bunks, too close for our comfort. We even saw the book O.J. Simpson signed when he was arrested for robbery. That night we went down to the Strip, had drinks atop the Stratosphere to find Dutch courage. The plan? A visit to a gentleman's club. When no one backed down, Bill hailed a cab. With the swagger of Humphrey Bogart, he said, "Take us to the Spearmint Rhino." Yeah, the Spearmint Rhino. When we arrived, Roberta and I hoped Bill would bail. We'd go back to their house in Henderson and watch Turner Classic Movies. The taxi left, but no one backed down. So we walked into darkness, flashing light, overpriced drinks, and pole dancers. Just like the women at Mark's bachelor party. I barely adjusted to being there when Bill started egging me on to have a lap dance. Bam! He bought himself one and one for me. She was a college girl with smooth, dark skin, a sweet smile, perky, plump breasts, inches from my face. Did she know I roiled with confusion and embarrassment? Roberta watched speechless. My face, she said, asked, "What the hell's happening?" That was a seminal moment in Bill's life. A dentist, he repeated that story at dinner tables and to patients, mouths packed with cotton and gums numbed by Novocaine. I never told colleagues at Lake Forest College, never. So you may ask, what happened to what happened in Vegas? Was Father Hart having an affair with the woman in Boulder? Would Kathy and Mark make it to the altar? No and yes. The woman priest in Boulder needed guidance. Her faith was faltering. Mark and Kathy tied the knot with Father Hart and Rabbi Smart officiating in the garden of Mark's home, and the feast that followed featured a cheeseburger bar. But what really happened to what happened in Vegas? Was it ever published? Where? When? It grew from a story to a novella and then to a novel. But it didn't grow like wildfire. It grew like a weed that never got pulled out of the garden. But I learned to take risks, to ask for help from friends, and jump in feet first. And in the 15 years since I started, I've submitted 808 pieces. Most times I feel the sting of rejection. Sometimes they say, it didn't quite fit. Sometimes they ask me to send something else. But sometimes the letter begins, congratulations. All because of that summer day, I left home to explore the mean streets of Glencoe, put on a floppy hat and sunglasses, and figure out what happened in Vegas. Thank you.